Welcome to Basscast Radio, bringing you the best in local and national news in bass fishing, as well as interviews with some of the best anglers from all over the U.S. With your host, Brian Carter, and Hank the Bass Geek. Sponsored by Wildware America, Z-Bait Company, Missile Baits, Battleborn Batteries, Conrad Brothers Marine, Taylorman's Custom Lures, Vertical Lures, and Lynchburg Arms and Indoor Shooting Range.
All right, guys, we got a special edition for you right here, a Saturday morning edition of Basscast Radio. What is happening, everyone? Hope you guys all had a great week out there. Got my co-host right here beside me, as always, Hank the Bass Geek. What's going on, brother?
Man, just living the dream. Starting to rock the lovely little mullet locks going on there. But no, man, just trying to get some fishing in anytime I can get it in. This time of year, late September, early October, in our region tends to be a little tough. Should be getting better here about mid-October, we hope. But, it's a grind out there right now.
It's junk fishing 101.
Yep. I got a buddy that used to say this time of year, and I have also adopted this saying. If you catch fish on one bait, put it down. Don't bother with it the rest of the day because you ain't gonna catch fish on that bait again. You just cycle through different baits. That's what it is.
Yeah, I saw one of our kayak angler friends. I think he's at a big event this weekend, and someone said he had like 12 rods, and he's on a kayak. I mean, I was like, good gosh, I ain't mentioned the guy's name, but I was like, holy cow, I take like 3.
Yeah, there's just the shallow fish begin to move. They'll scatter. There'll be some roaming wolf packs right now. Some fish, they start to move from those deep haunts. They come to the baits. So they're waiting on that feed bag to get strapped on, and they scatter out. They're just moving around, and the best thing you can do this year is just cover water. A crankbait is your friend, a spinnerbait is your friend. And there is a good jig bite around the moons in September. The full moon, a little better at night during the full moon. The new moon, though, you're bigger, you're 3-year and older. Big crawfish tend to come out around that time, molt, so they get soft shell. And those bass know. So
there you go, little tips and information from the geek himself.
Yep.
All right, guys, if you haven't headed over and checked out Bass Geek's YouTube channel, make sure you do so today. Hit the follow button, and while you're there, after you hit the follow button, make sure you hit the little bell. That way you can get a notification. Geek drops 2 videos a week. We've been kind of holding him to that, and he's been putting it out. So I mean, the numbers have been showing. And let's get him to 50,000 followers by Christmas. I think we can do it.
We hit 45 today, last night.
5,000 left. Let's do it, guys.
5,000 subscribers. Please go hit that subscribe button. And speaking of crawdads, here we are on Saturday. Video drops at 5 p.m. Eastern tomorrow. And we got a little unboxing for you, and a company that I've kind of stumbled across that I'm really excited about, Third Eye Fishing. I'll sponsor just an innovative company, got a really neat crawl bait.
Oh,
really unique design out of a small company. Guys, don't discount those small companies.
Yeah, I mean, they have, the small companies know they have to be innovative. I mean, everything else is, he said everything's been done. I mean, how many more ways can you make a wacky worm?
Yeah. Well, I always tell people, I always hear people talk about going to these local expos, and they're like, oh, there's nothing innovative.
Yeah.
bull, most of the time, what you think is a gimmick is the innovation. Let's look at things like the chatterbait. The chatterbait wasn't made by Z-Mans, it was bought by Z-Mans. You know, let's look at the A-rig, the preacher jig. The preacher jig in my area on ledge fishing, a big feather jig for the ledges is known as a preacher jig. And the reason why it's known as a preacher jig is because there was actually a preacher in Alabama that began to make them, and that's where it grew in popularity. And all of a sudden, everybody and their mother started making. The Alabama rig was the same way. A guy in Alabama took from saltwater and started making castable Alabama rigs. Guess who the first one to buy those were? Young. So, you know, most of the time, your real innovations are made by smaller companies or individual guys.
There you go. That's very true. So, you know, I know we're a ways away from East Tennessee, the Richmond Fishing Expo. There's a couple other local ones around in my area. I know there's plenty. I know the big one in Chicago. And then you get the Bassmaster Classic, South Carolina. I mean, that's 200 booths by itself.
Yep.
So come on out, you know, support your local tackle stores. And like I said, like Bass Geek was saying, hit your local expo. I mean, it don't matter how many cars in the parking lot. You might stumble upon a deal that, you know, might win you a lot of money in 2022. You're the only one that saw.
Yeah, you got to dig, you got to look, and you got to be open-minded.
Yep.
That's the key.
We used to say that about, I was a big baseball card collector, and, you know, same way. I mean, you know, you find all that stuff and you dig through boxes and boxes and boxes. And, you know, next thing you know, you found a gold mine. I mean, but that's the same way. So, all right, guys. So we have a young man on with us today, and his name is Mr. Trey McKinney. If you haven't heard of Trey McKinney, we can't really prove, but I think it's been told. He is the youngest AOY. I'll read this to you guys really, really quick. 16-year-old Trey McKinney wins MFL Phoenix Bass Fishing League Super Tournament on Lake Shelbyville, crowned 2021 Illinois Division Angler of the Year at 16 years old. I stumbled upon it. I'll be honest, guys. I got a press release from St. Croix Rods, and he's a heck of a dude. Also, he won both the Bass and FLW Junior championships in the same year. You don't hear about that happening too often, man. The dude's a stick.
Yeah, I had about, honestly, I don't have it in front of me. I know me and you talked about this already. Had about as good of a season as you can have. I mean, it was like, I think 2 5th place, a second place. He had one bad, and for you guys out in podcast land that see me, I'm putting this in air quotations, bad as in, you know, a tournament, and then won the super tournament. So, I mean,
I think it was 30th or something like that. He finished in that one tournament.
Yeah, so it was somewhere around there, but I mean, it was, like I said, I think it was like a second or a third, and then 2 5ths to start the year
or something amazing. Crazy. Yeah, it's like, it
was like, there's the door. Let me just kick that son of a gun in.
Guys, so we'll be right back with Mr. Trey McKinney. All right, guys, we are back with a 16-year-old phenom, Mr. Trey McKinney. What's up, brother?
Doing good. How about yourself?
Man, welcome to Basscast Radio. Thanks for coming on and talking with us on this Saturday early morning edition. Before we get started, man, and talking about 2021 and looking back at your season so far, tell us a little bit about yourself and when you started doing this big old fishing thing.
Well, let's just put it this way. As you know, my cousin, Trevor McKinney, he's fishing the Bass Opens right now and has really had success all throughout high school, college, anything like that. And it kind of started, we had basically our church has a few tournaments, and they used to anyway. And ever since I've been fishing at the pond, and I was kind of getting into it, I had a few rods, I was kind of catching more, fishing more ponds. I kind of had a bug, and I'd never been to a lake. So I was like, man, I got to somehow I got to find somebody to take me. So therefore I went to the church and asked a few guys, and they had a boat. And actually they took me to my first tournaments at Lake of Egypt. It's like 10 minutes that way. And we actually ended up winning. And from there on, actually Trevor started taking me. We started fishing Wednesday nighters and stuff. And basically it just went from there. And here we are. I'm sitting in my own boat. And I mean, it's a very much blessing. So
that's pretty awesome. My first trip, little flashback here. My first trip to Smith Mountain Lake, I think I was about 8, 9, 10 in that area, vacation Bible school. And these people took me out on a pontoon boat on Smith Mountain Lake. I go 30 years later, 20 years later, and I'm at the lake every weekend.
Yep.
So, yeah, I wish I'd have went fishing. I'd probably turned out a little bit better, but they just took me on a cruise ride.
Yeah, that's fair.
All right, guys, as you heard earlier, we're looking back. We spoke to him for a minute, guys. 2018. Do you consider that your breakout year? I think it was, winning some big events, guys.
Absolutely. That's the time of year that I realized something could go on with fishing. I realized that it's bigger than what anybody could claim it to be. There's never really a top notch. And that's the thing. I get to keep pushing myself. And every year, anything that happens, you can just keep pushing harder to become a better fisherman, become a better angler, put it that way.
Right.
And I would say that was basically the year that everything started to fall in place. Started to get a few sponsors, and here we are today, still with St. Croix and all that. So fishing is a very unique sport, I would put it as, and it's absolutely my love.
So tell people where you're from, man. What's your home pond?
Home pond. I'm from Southern Illinois. I'm basically down in the Marion and Carbondale area. I'm not that far from Kentucky Lake, anything like that. But my home pond that I basically grew up fishing, learned how to fish, would be Lake of Egypt. It's kind of a smaller lake, but it's high pressure. Okay. So anything from, you can use 65-pound braid all the way down to 8-pound line. It's got a little bit of clear water. It's got offshore. It's got grass. So it's basically a very good pond that has been a good pond for me to learn on. So absolutely.
If you were to have 3 rods tied on right now on your boat, what's the 3 rods, man?
Right now, this time of year, of course, I'm a jig man. I love a jig.
We need to hear.
I'm more or less that if I had one bait instead of 3 rod, I would definitely have a jig, 20-pound Tatsu Seaguar. And most of the time, I'm not a guy that throws a big jig. Sometimes I'll throw now offshore. That's a different topic. I'm gonna throw more or less like a football jig, anything like that. But right now, since it's kind of getting tough around Illinois, you don't have a lot of those fisheries that's like big, like Pickwick, anything like that. So you're going to get a lot more bites around here with like more of like a peewee jig, something like that, something smaller, a finesse jig, something like that. So more like a 3/8 ounce, something like that. So, and then my other rod right now, I have caught a lot of fish on is a frog. I'm telling you, like I just got on with them this year. It's a scum frog. Now this is the trophy series, but my favorite would be the launch series. So right now I've caught a ton of fish on them. And it's like anything else, like a Spro's an amazing frog, and that's what I always used to throw. Mm-hmm. And I started with these right now, and I don't know what it is different. They're just, I guess they're so much softer. And I'm telling you what, I don't know what it is, but they get it like so good. And I can't even think of the last time I lost a fish. Actually, that BFL that we just actually ended up winning the super tournament, I caught one of my biggest one. It was like 5 something on that, on a white one. So it's been good. And then, of course, you got to have the fairy one, as many people call it.
The old egg beater.
I know. I have caught an Agilium. Actually, I can't say nothing because I have caught my 2 biggest fish have actually been on 8-pound line. I've caught one, and one of them's in a tournament when we actually ended up winning a boat last year or this year. Gosh. And I caught it. I've basically been throwing a drop shot, a shaky head. The main thing, it's from net bait. It's more or less a finesse worm. Yeah. And there's a lot of different colors. And yeah, I caught one that was 9.2 and 9.4 this year. So it's been, and they both on 8-pound lines. So it's been unreal. So, but yeah, actually my favorite rod right now is the 9.2, but it's a legend
on an 8-pound test.
So. And that's the thing. Everybody underestimates light line. Like, man, I can't get my head wrapped around it. I don't like light line, everything like that. I want hands on, stuff like that. But man, it's one of them things. If you don't break off on an initial hook set, and most of the time you don't do that, and you've got him hooked with a nice hook set, most time it ain't coming off. Like you put it this way, your percentages are higher. It's for me anyway. Like drop shot.
You gotta have good drag, and you can't horse them. You just gotta you gotta be patient. You gotta be patient. You gotta be calm. You gotta play. I love it. Love fishing down here, Northeast Tennessee. I fish for a lot of smallmouth on the bed, and when you're basically underhand pitching a Ned rig on 6-pound test line to anything from 3 to 6 pound smallmouth, and they're on the bed, they're not happy.
No,
you just have to be easy.
And that's the thing, that's kind of that you got to have the right rod, the base, like you said, right drag, anything like that, and right temperament, like you said. It's more or less. And the thing around here, we have a lot of big brush piles, and they get hammered, and there's big fish in there, and you're like, man, I really don't want to throw 8-pound line in the middle of this push pile. But it's amazing how big a fish you can get out of the thickest brush pile you can find on 8-pound line. And most of it is when you set the hook, to have patience. Like when he's going around, and most of the time a fish ain't going to sit there pinned up against the log. Most time if you just give him a little bit of slack, it don't always work like this, but sometimes what you do is you hold them tight and you slowly give them a little slack. Time to kind of swim themselves out of it. It's hard to believe, but it does happen. So
it does work. It's it's just I know most of us would rather have the 15 to 25 pound test, 65 pound braid. We'd rather just set, crank in, fill them out full of water, because we feel a lot better about it when we got that going down.
I agree.
You just got to take your time and learn how to finesse them.
I agree. It's and really anymore, it's kind of a special skill set for a lot of tournaments right now. As tough as everything is, much pressure is going on in the world, many people starting to fish. So
there you go.
You're kind of missing out if you don't want to learn this technique, and that's the thing that I actually adore it. I actually love it, and it's something else when you hook into a big one on this finesse right in the tournament. It's the nerve level that just goes all the way up. It's like an adrenaline rush. So it is definitely a good feeling, and it catches a lot of fish.
So, man, 2018, you won 3 championships.
Yes, sir.
Tell us what those championships were.
Okay. Most of the time on the bass side, I qualified, and actually in the junior side, I fished the state 3 times, and actually won state all 3 times. And I got to the national championship. It would have been every time. And the first year I fished like 11th, and I was like, man, it was a good finish, whatever. I mean, we tried it, and I lost like an 8-pounder right at the boat. It's one of them lakes. It's got flipping giants in it. And I got excited a long time ago, and he put the net down there, and I tried to drag him into the net, which sometimes is like the best choice. And the next year we qualified, and he's like, man, you gotta strive harder every year. And ever since then, we started day 1, we were sitting pretty far up there, and day 2, everything just kind of fell into place, and it ended up winning. And then we actually traveled to the next generation, and that's we all love Lake Barkley, Lake Kentucky, whatever you want to call it. And absolutely, that lake is one of my favorites just to go fish a tournament on. It's pretty tough, but it just seems like it's always been good to me for that lake. And actually, we weighed in like 18 pounds the first day, and we had 26 the second day. And it was unreal. So, and I tell you what, one of my hardest fisheries I've fished is the FLW one. It's a hot spring, Arkansas, at Lake Hamilton. Man, that is a tough lake. I will give them it every second of it. I'm telling you, you catch a pretty good bag on there, you've done something. So it's still a good lake, but the times that we've been there, late August, stuff like that, it's pretty tough. So it's been very, very well blessed down there.
Yeah, it's definitely tough in August. Good gosh. And then bags, holy cow.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. So we highlighted on that, but 2021, man. I mean, let's start the beginning when the schedule came out for 2021. How are you feeling, man? You know, we all get the schedules and we're like, all right, everybody does it. Every angler, well, I can fish this and I can fish that. And, like last week I was at a tournament. Why'd you schedule it this way? And why'd you schedule it that way? But how did you feel going into 2021 after looking at the schedule, man?
I tell you what, the hardest thing with me is, I'm telling you, the BFLs that we started this year, it's more or less, I mean, it's a giant step. I mean, compared to high school fishing, anything like that. I was kind of like a little shook up because I didn't want to go if I couldn't compete. And that was my main personal goal, is maybe just to make a few checks. Maybe I would be outstanding with that. And my first one, I got third. And I was like, man, that's unreal how that happened. Everything just kind of fell in. And I was like, man, that's kind of cool. And the next one, I finished fifth. And the next one, I finished third. And then the next one, I kind of stumbled on. It was at the Ohio River, really tough fishery. Don't plan on going there for fun fishing. And it's
trust
really
me,
bad.
I've heard that from more than just you.
Yeah. And I kind of stumbled and I fell back in points. And I was like, man, a lot of these, I mean, and that's the thing. I had a third, a fifth, a third, and two fifths and one third. And somehow, I mean, they were still on my butt. Like, I mean, there's some really, really sticks out here. I mean, Scott Rice was one of them, and he was tagging along the first tournament I fished. He got third. We tied for third, and the next tournament it was like fifth and sixth. So it's a really tight race, and I fell back, of course, and I was sitting kind of far back in points. Like, man, hopefully I got to make it to the top, the last day cut, and I actually made it. I was finishing at the super tournament. And I was fishing Lake Chevyville, and that's one of my favorite lakes nowadays. And I don't know what it's about it. It's got quality, it's got fish, and it's just been really good to me. So it's basically, we started off, I had 11-7 the first day, and I'm sitting fourth. And I think the leader had maybe like right at 15. I was like, okay, I mean, we still have a shot maybe to win it, but mostly you're mostly concern is points. Angler of the year. Yeah. That was my most concern. And I got up there and I had a co-angler, Amanda Black, and we come and we stopped at the first spot. And it's just one of them, them gut feelings you get and you got to follow them. And I had a frog in a rod box. I'm like, man, it's not a lake for a frog. Like, I'm like, this is not right, but oh well. So I dig it out of the rod box. I unhook it off the deal. And about third cast, the water drops from underneath it. And I set the hook. And I get it in the boat, she nets it, and it weighed like 5 something. I was like, it's one of them days, man. It's just, it's nothing to do. It's just one of them days. And everything went from there on. And when we went to weigh in, I had 19.7. And it's the biggest bag of weight and one of my biggest personally that I've caught by myself. So it was unreal.
Wow.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And, you talk about the BFLs, I've code on some BFLs. I've fished some BFLs, and you're right. You're fishing against some sticks. You're fishing against what I call the ringers in the BFLs. Those guys that they come out, and just to get a top 10 in a BFL, I know where I'm at. To get a top 10 or top 15, you're fishing against some of those guys. They won't fish any other tournament all year long. But they'll fish that home lake tournament that they fish 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 times a week.
Yep.
Those guys are hard to beat.
Extremely.
So you've got to have a good day, some good practice. There's got to be a little bit of luck in there too. So man,
I agree.
Good job, brother. Good job.
Thank you, sir. And that's one of the things ever. It's USA Bassin too as well. And it was more of the spawn on Chickamauga, like I said, and we kind of went down there, and it was a 2-day. It was like a 2-day tournament. It was like whatever. We got down there, and I think we weighed in like it was around 18 pounds again, and it was good. We were kind of sitting up there. We were still behind, of course, like Chickamauga. Somebody got 20 pounds, and we get down there, and the next day, I mean, we had all sorts of boat issues, man. I'll tell you, we had something battery technician will go out. We had the shift actuator. And I mean, it just, I haven't had one issue of this boat, and it all came at once, and
wow,
it was kind of struggling. And I mean, the last day of the boat takeoff, I mean, we still had a chance. I mean, we were up in the top 10, and we got out there and we thought we got my motor fixed, and all of a sudden it was not happening. It wouldn't start. I was like, man, this is not good. So we ended up late, and finally we got to our first spot after we got that figured out. I caught one about 5 something. Everything like that. It was all happening good. We finally got a limit. And all of a sudden I look up there, and there's that just giant, like that's a magnificent of a bass, just like swimming around up there. And I'm like, oh my Lord, that's like a 6-pounder. And that's going to be giant for us. So if I get out my spinning rod, I'm like, I think I got an idea of how to catch it. So I
Now wait, but his first thought, he sees a 6-pounder and he says, "I'm gonna get out my spinning rod."
Yep.
Which I find hilarious. Because
Yep.
I'm thinking 6-pounder. I ain't thinking spinning rod.
That's fair. And that's the thing. I don't know why I thought it, but I'm telling you, it was just something about it. It was kind of finicky. And I knew he was up there. He wasn't locked on or anything like that. So I'm like, you know what? I'm going to try it. So I tie on 8-pound line with a drop shot and I flip it up in a place where he kind of wants to be. You can kind of tell how a fish reacts on where he, that's the sweet spot right there. So I flip it there and I back up as far as I can. And I'm sitting here it's as far as my line's got a bow at 20 yards. And I'm like, it's whatever. I probably won't catch him anyway. And all of a sudden he swims up there. I'm like, oh gosh, this might happen. So I'm sitting back here just shaking it. And all of a sudden it kind of acts weird. It kind of flinches and kind of noses down. I'm like, oh gosh. And I look at my partner and I'm like, no way. And I reel up and I kind of see him kind of start easily swimming off. I'm like, this ain't right. I reel up and my line's got a bow going to the right. I'm like, here it is. So I lean into it. It takes off, and I'm telling you, it was the longest fight of my life. And it ended up weighing 9.2.
Yeah.
What did you say that weight was again?
9.2.
Holy cow.
Yeah. I'm telling you what, this fish, if it wouldn't have spawned out, it was the biggest fish I've ever seen in my life. If it hadn't spawned out, it was as skinny as a rail 9-pounder. That's hard to believe. And I mean, I had a guy there that was a biologist. He come and he was sitting there just because it was a big one. And he said this fish would have potentially went over maybe 11 if it would have.
Yeah, I don't doubt it. If you'd caught it during the spring, I don't doubt it one bit.
Yep, I agree. And I mean, it was nuts how big he said it would. And I forget how many inches it was. I mean, it was so big when I put it in my live well, I had to close the gill plates to stick it in the live. It was
wow.
Unreal. Yeah, wow. That's a 12-pound head.
yeah, it was nuts. I was so excited. I just laid on the back deck, just sitting there and out of wind, out of breath. It was the longest fight because where we were is really clear water, and you could watch every movie made. You could watch him every second you were fighting him. So it was it was just the adrenaline rush of no other. So it was crazy.
Guys, if you haven't heard already, we got 16-year-old Mr. Trey McKinney with us today and talking about his short-lived career. And you guys are hearing he's catching some hammers, big bags, and making his dreams come true. Let's give a little information out there for new and upcoming English. A lot of stuff's changed.
It has.
From the time me and Bass Geek started this whole entire fishing thing here. I know Bass Geek's been fishing a lot longer than me, especially bass, but that's beside the point. But being new, going to new bodies of water, we got YouTube now. We got a lot of other things that are happening social media wise. Yep. What's Trey do to get ready for a tournament this year? In 2021?
Prep. Basically, prep is one of the most important things ever. You almost got to have a day of practice before you get there. And that's what I call it. And a lot of it, like you said, we got YouTube, we got internet, you got everything that can supply so much information. And basically, like I said, you can have a day on the water without even being there. Yeah. And that's the main thing. And Google Maps is really awesome as well. Mm-hmm. And the main thing as of right now is if I'm going to a new lake I had never been for, I want to try my hardest to somehow get an advantage over this guy and that guy and this guy. And that's one way you can do it is basically research a ton, call anybody any down there. If you can call somebody, if not, then obviously don't do that. But that's the main thing. And really, and that's the thing you got to think of. If you're going into say the BFL, say the Open, anything like that, of course, I mean, there's all the big names, all the local pros, everything, everybody that's all you heard of your whole life is how good of a they are. And it's kind of overwhelming when you're kind of going into it like that. You look over when you're putting your boat in, you just see them over tying something on. It's kind of intimidating. Mm-hmm. And the main thing is it's you versus 5 bass. That's the main point. It's you versus the bass. And the more you worry about this guy over here, what he's got, what this guy's got, the more you kind of get away from your 5 fish point. So the more you can stay focused, that you only have to get 5 bites of this caliber and this and this. And you can focus, and every pitch is a high percentage pitch. And every cast, you can put it in a place that, and that's another thing, kind of fish where nobody else fishes. I mean, if you got a log, everybody that kind of goes by, you kind of can tell where the spot is, where everybody kind of flips. I mean, that's just how it is, but maybe line up on it different. Kind of anything you can do. That's the thing you got to think about. Anything you can do to get 1 extra bite a day, I want to do it. And that's the thing with how, I mean, that's like a dock, anything like that.
Right.
Any way you set up on it. I mean, there's all sorts of ways. Everybody's got their predictions on how you should set up on a log, anything like that. And that's the thing you got to set up. I've even been that way on brush piles when I'm fishing with a spinning rod. I can tell, it says I have a Garmin. I can tell which way it's laying. And obviously, if it's laying like this, the trunk's that way, and you're trying to throw the trunk across, and you hook a fish in that V, most likely your chance is not amazing to get him out. That's something I have found out. And in a tournament that's worth that much, and you have that much on the line, you got to put everything in your favor. So that's basically one thing. It's you versus fish, and everything you can do to put that higher possibility in your hands, do it.
Yep. I agree.
Yes, sir.
Yep.
All right.
And go ahead.
Trey, they always ask, you're 16 though. So it's probably like, but if there was one person fishing wise, did you say you want to kind of mimic your style after? Who would that be?
Gosh, it's hard. There's so many good people out there. I mean, of course, everybody knows Jacob Wheeler. And that, I know. I had to do it. That's it. And that's dude. I love him to death. And I mean,
he's a good dude.
The success that is unreal. And he's really versatile, and that's what I like. It's really hard, really, and that's the thing about. We got to look over here at Andy Morgan, and he's always favorite of mine, just how he fishes.
Mr. Consistency.
Yes, I agree. And that's kind of, and that's like a Chris Zaldane. He's more or less like, he's got to get 5 big fish. And if he gets those 5 bites, watch out. Like literally just watch out. But most likely in these tough fisheries nowadays, if he does, great. But if he don't, it's kind of more inconsistent. And that's the thing with Andy Morgan, just the way he fishes. It'd have to be between Andy Morgan and probably Jacob Wheeler, something in that nature.
Yeah.
That's kind of, it's so hard to say, really. And that's the thing in the future. I kind of just want to just let the road take me there. Just kind of don't have a specific goal. Just kind of go in that direction and just see what the Lord provides us and see where it plans out. So
it's the same way, you were talking about, information and gathering everything. You still have to, you can take that information, you can have an ideal, but you cannot get on the water and say, I'm going to do it this way. You have to fish that day, that minute. You've got to be ready to make those on the fly changes. And
the thing that a lot of people have is they have their mindset of how everybody's told them this is how you're going to catch them. This is how the tournament's going to run. And for instance, sometimes that works and that's amazing. It's awesome help. But sometimes it's just not meant to be that way. And ever since you try to keep pushing that idea, like you just said, and there's one more day. I mean, by the time you know it, there's one more day of practice and you're freaking out. You don't know how to catch a bass that could a bag that could win a tournament. And that's the thing. I've done it many a times. And that's kind of the thing that's the thing. Fish don't always follow the rules. That's right.
Like I used to always say, they don't read Bassmaster magazine like we do.
Yep. And
that's true.
That's the thing. It's kind of, they can be complicated. They can be tough. They can be stubborn. They can be everything in between. And that's what's one thing I've learned is just kind of let them tell you what's going on.
Yeah.
Other than that frog you got in your hand, brother, what were your top baits for 2021, man?
2021, I would say that mostly I've caught them, like you said, let's do the top 3. I'm going to do this year, I'm going to say more of like a finesse jig, anything in that nature, any kind of colors. I'm more of like a bluegill color guy, anything natural, something like that. gosh, more or less. That's a bad thing. It's kind of changed halfway through now because it's kind of getting into fall. But
Oh yeah.
and anything like right now, I'd be a shake yet. And that's the thing with me with a shake yet. I'm throwing a really light shake yet. I'm throwing an 8th right now, and I can throw anyway. Since 8-pound line, you can get away with a lot less, and a lot lighter stuff. So I've been throwing from an 8th anywhere up to a few little bit heavier. But it's hard to say I have caught a lot of fish on a frog in these last 3 weeks. I mean,
It's awesome.
it's been, my ribs have been hurting, and that's what I like. I'll take and that is the thing I love. It's something that I can't get enough of right now. And another thing, let's see if I got up here. Let's right here. And another thing I've caught a lot of fish on, hold it, stuck in the carpet, is kind of a top water bait. And it would be a sexy dog from Strike.
yeah.
I've caught a lot of fish on it.
Oh yeah, walking the dog.
Yes, sir.
Walking the dog.
There's a lot of different colors out there, but that's one of my favorites. I've caught a lot of fish on that. Actually, my biggest fish I've ever caught, I never weighed, was on this, and kind of like a little public lake. And there's no telling how big it was. And that 9-pounder was giant, but it was just as big. It was probably pushing. It was nuts. So that's probably my lineup for right now. That's something I always have on my deck for right now. And I mean, you kind of got the best of all 3 worlds. You got anywhere from finesse, jig, frog, top water. So there's a few other stuff I can dig out of the box.
Oh yeah.
And it's more or less that's where my confidence is right now. For sure.
I got one last question, man. I'll let Bass Geek ask his next question. What's been your biggest takeaway from 2021, man? Something that you've learned that's going to help you 2022, 23, 24, 25. Guys, he's only 16 years old, by the way, just an FYI. I mean, and, he's a great interviewer already.
Yeah. Good job.
There's a lot of 16-year-olds we've spoken to, and we're drinking at the end of it.
You got to pull the answer
You gotta
out.
pull the answer out. But guys, Trey's an awesome dude. And like I said, what is your biggest takeaway from 2021?
For me, it's more or less, I would say, kind of more trusting your gut feeling. And this is the first year that I've fished a lot more, just kind of on my own feeling. And it's kind of different because you have that second man sitting right here. Hey, let's discuss it. Where do you think we should go between this spot and this spot? Tell me which one you think. And that's the thing that's been very, very big for me, is starting to not have that person there, and you're starting to figure out, like, okay, let's just go with it. Are your gut feeling? And it's so hard to explain. It's more or less just a feeling, really. And it's helped me a lot. Trying not to second guess myself, put it that way.
Yeah, there you go.
That's pretty well my biggest learn from this year. And of course, just little stuff, every little thing. And that's the thing, you can learn stuff from any. And right now, that's probably every person I go fishing with, or any person I have went fishing with, you got to take stuff from this guy, and this guy, and put it all on one. And that's the thing that's my biggest takeaway. Everybody I go fishing with, try to just pick little stuff out. You might not like how they fish, but I guarantee there's one thing in there that can help you in the future. And that's the thing that I've really tried, is every person you keep with, ask a lot of questions. And that's the only way you're going to learn. Most of the time, these guys ain't going to tell you everything they know without you asking questions, being curious. And that's the thing about people right now is when they kind of realize you want to learn, they'll tell you more. I mean, if you're not listening and they're kind of preaching to themselves, most likely they ain't got to go into depth and everything. But when they find out you're interested, it just starts to fall together. They tell you this, tell you that. So that's definitely a good key deal for right now. So that'd probably be it. Second guessing myself, not as much would be this year's biggest takeoff.
There you go, all you young men and young ladies out there. You heard it right here, man. Ask questions, sign up as a co-angler.
Yep.
Yes. I mean, work a winter job and fish all summer. I mean, you're still living at home.
Yep.
Don't go to stupid parties and buy stupid crap. Go fishing.
I agree. Yeah.
So So my big thing is now you're qualified for region. You got a free tournament.
Yep.
Where's your regional at? I know it should be next month in October, right?
Actually, it's October 8th, and it's in Norfolk Lake in Arkansas.
Okay.
So
You've been there before. What do you feel about it?
I have not been there before. I've more or less a kind of like not like a table rock, but it kind of sets up the same, more or less top water, plopper, a little bit deeper offshore brush. It's going to be interesting, most likely for me. I've heard it's pretty clear. I'm not more or less the clear type of guy, but we all, like you said, you got to make that transition somehow. So we're going to try it. We'll get a few days of free fishing, and hopefully it'll be good.
Trey, man, thank you for coming on. Thank you for talking with us today. Guys, like I said, 16-year-old Mr. Trey McKinney. Before you leave, man, any sponsors, people we want to thank out there?
Absolutely. Actually, the boat I'm sitting in, I would like to thank Charger for giving me a good ride, anything like that. And all my sponsors really, and that's the thing about anything. My local sponsors have helped me a ton too. Farmer State Bank, Little Tractor, all that. And it's amazing. Everything's starting to put together. And St. Croix rods, and like I'm wearing Seagull line. And those have been, hopefully everything goes well and everything is absolutely an American Bait Works. Everybody underneath their umbrella, Scumfrog, NetBait. And they got so many good companies underneath that as of right now. And so it's got to be good. And Mercury, everything right now. So basically, we'll just have to see what the future brings. And thank you to all my sponsors.
Yeah, send me some of that red box cigar, okay?
Okay.
That's my favorite. It's boxes somewhere. I was looking for some. They probably they stacked up somewhere around here.
Yep, that red label's really good. My favorite right now, that's the thing for me. Usually I got kind of stair steps for red label. I'm more of like a moving bait, anything like that. And once you get into like Invisex and Satsu, that's pretty serious. I mean, it's a little bit pricey, but man, for anything like that you have to rely on jig, anything like that, I would definitely recommend Invisex or Tatsu. So it'd be great. You all have a wonderful day.
All right, man. I think guys, check him out on Instagram. I think I still have it up right here. There he is.
Absolutely.
Trey McKinney. Please make sure you head on over and give him a follow.
Absolutely.
He's got 2,000 followers. Let's get him up to 5,000 before the afternoon. So
that'd be great.
Brother, man, thank you for coming on. Thank you for talking with us. We wish you the best of luck next month.
Thank you.
And let's cross the fingers you win this bad boy, and we'll have you back on, man.
I know.
We'll be watching.
Hey, top six, man. You get to go to the All-American.
That's right. That's right.
I know.
That's all you need.
No pressure. No pressure. No pressure.
I know. Not at all. Not at all. I know it'll be interesting. Hopefully everything plans out, and hopefully the Lord puts everything into place.
All right, guys. Man, we appreciate Trey coming on and talking with us today. A Saturday morning edition of Basscast Radio. Thank you, Bass Geek, as well. It's
Anytime, brother.
It was a little inconvenience, but it's actually turned out to be an awesome show. He's an awesome young man.
Awesome show.
And if you are not following him, like I said, on Instagram, the dude's got some hosses. We're talking like 9s, 8s. They laugh about 18-pound bags. I mean,
yeah.
I got boys in here on Smith Mountain Lake beg to have an 18. But you got to have
20. I would
with
this year. I'll tell you what. Listen, I'd take a 15 right now.
Just a heads up, when you come down here and fish, just clear a body of water, aka Smith Mountain Lake. You better bring the 20s. I had an event years ago. This is no lie. I don't know why I bring this up, but it's like I had 5 20-pound bags. I think we had 25 anglers fish the tournament. And I had 20-pound bags that didn't get checks.
Wow.
It might have been like less than that, because it had probably been about 20. So one guy missed a check and he had a 20-pound bag. Yep.
I've seen it before. I've seen it on my little smallmouth lake, South Holston down here before. So it's, sometimes it's just everything comes up right.
That's true. Well, guys, thanks for listening. We really appreciate you guys tuning in. Make sure you head on over to outdoorobsessionsradio.com. I'm not going to go through all of it. I didn't really go through this at the very beginning, but make sure you're following us on Rumble. That's where the video will be uploaded. Or you can go, like I said, outdoorobsessionsradio.com and watch the video. Or, I got a bunch of friends of mine. They caught up over the week. They listened to the last 3. So they're like, where was the Thursday edition? Oh. So thank you guys. Really, really appreciate it. Hit the share button, hit the like button, head on over and follow Bass Geek. Let's get him up to 50,000 followers by the holiday. We ought to do a lot. We need to do another live on YouTube.
We do.
Because
I need to do more, period.
It's been about a month. It's been a couple months. It's been about a month since you did that one with your 2 or 3 compadres you had on.
Where I work such a swing shift, I just don't get to do them that much.
Hey, I'll tell you this right now. My best videos, I don't make an announcement. I just come on and people start watching. They're like, "Ooh, look, Basscast on." If you make an announcement, they have it in their head that they want to listen to it, but then they forget. So I'll be honest, my best live videos have been where I didn't say I'm coming on at 7:00. I just came on at 7:00 and started talking. Or the same thing on Instagram. And it's like people like, "Can I join you?" I'm like, I guess. Whatever you want to talk about, I don't care. Yeah. As long as it's bass fishing related. So head on over, check Bass Geek out, hit the follow button. And as always, make sure you hit that notification bell so you never miss an episode. And like you said, guys, tomorrow afternoon, correct? Another one drops.
Yep. 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
And follow the basscast.com on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, social media. I got these spear point hooks right here. We're going to be giving more of those away on our Instagram channel. So thank you, everyone. Have a great weekend. We wrap up our kayak series today. I'm heading to Smith Mountain Lake here in a few hours for that. Danielle's heading up to the 94.9 Star Country Big Old Bass Tournament. 130 anglers are up there. It's Saturday here at the basscast.com, and we're heading to the lake. Be good, everybody.
You've been listening to Basscast Radio, the best in local and national bass fishing news. To listen to more episodes, check us out on all the podcasting networks. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, thebasscast.com, and Basscast News.